Welcome to the Great ÄND Shoud. This is number 8 in the series. And we are here once again in Kona, Hawaii, in the beautiful Shambra Pavilion with so much beauty and nature surrounding us. I hope you can feel those energies. We are here. Jeff is getting ready for Adamus. So with that, I think there's no reason for any delay. So I invite you to find a comfortable space, a safe space that you choose for you to really let yourself dive into this experience. So get comfortable, honoring yourself as we begin with that conscious breath. Oh, breathing is so natural. Just allow it, flow with it, be with it. There's no special way to do it other than to breathe for you and honor you. Take that breath of life. Feel into the energies. It's all your energy. Breathe, flow. Breathe with presence. Breathe. The I am that I am. I exist. Feel it. Be it. Oh, Adamus is here. He's here for each and every one of us. Just breathe it in and feel it. Take that good deep breath. Be that good deep breath. Breathe into you as we allow this music to flow with us as we begin.
Breathing soft into light, nothing held, nothing needed. I arrive in this night. Alaton, 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 alaton. I create, I create. Alaton, alaton, from my soul. Alaton, alaton, I am whole. Gently now, I remember what I am, what I've known. Not a dream, not a story. I am here, I am whole. Alaton, alaton, I create without end. Alaton, alaton, no beginning, no end. Alaton, soft and free. Alaton, I am me. Alenaya Deshanora. Alaton Beasha. Alenaya Deshanora. Alaton Beasha. I create in the silence. I create without
Greetings, dear Shambra. Greetings. I am that I am. Let's take a good deep breath together as we begin this Shoud, as we kind of expand the energies, continue to open up. Let's take a good deep breath. Let's be in presence for a moment, in presence. What does that mean? It simply means I am here. I am here. You don't have to do a lot of thinking. Doesn't need a lot of words. Simply, I am here. And when you do that, suddenly you are. When you start overthinking it, suddenly you aren't so much. But if it's just a simple, I am here. Such beauty in that. Doesn't need identity. No, it doesn't need any identity whatsoever. One would think that your identity, whatever that happens to be, needs to be present, and it doesn't. It's almost better that it's not. Because as we're going to talk about today, the identity is it's a beautiful thing, but it's time to move on. Time to expand, time to release a lot of things. A lot of releasing over the years, but this is the next step in releasing. I am present needs no identity whatsoever. Just that you're here. That's the I exist. The I exist doesn't need identity whatsoever. Doesn't need to be I exist as Adamus. I exist as Linda. I exist as anything. It just is I exist. Take a moment. Do that. Take a good deep breath. No identity needed. I exist. You might say, I exist as what? But it doesn't matter. I exist. And that's truly when you begin to feel the fullness, the trueness, the magnificence of yourself. I exist. Not as Cauldra, not as Jean, not as any of those. Hi, Jean. Jean's not here with us today on set, but her presence is certainly here. I exist. That's it. Not I, Jean, exist, just I exist. Feel into that for a moment. Not think. You go right away to thinking. There's what is that? Some automatic default that you go to thinking about it? No. It's feeling into it. I exist. And then everything comes together. Quietly, subtly, harmoniously, beautifully. Oh, that's where all the technical issues, they kind of resolve themselves. That's where life just suddenly appears to be and feels like and is experienced as a flow, not a battle. I exist. No need for identity. Identity, in a manner of speaking, is built into everything. Doesn't need to be created, doesn't need to be constructed, doesn't need to be fixed. As we talked about in a recent Shoud, identity is always there, but it's not fixed. It's not something that is constructed and will never change. It always changes. And that's the beauty of being a creator, a true creator. In our last Shoud, we talked about Allatone. We just saw the music video, Allatone, I create. And something that Tobias said many, many years ago, I create. And when you do, when you openly create, without defining, without pushing, and it's just really about allowing. When the creations are open-ended, they're not based on a time frame, they're not based on a description or a particular outcome. That is true creation. That is God creation, spirit creation. Human creation is really something quite different. Human creation tends to involve an effort. You work at something. It tends to involve a timeline, and it tends to have a particular desired outcome. But that's actually not true creation. It might be creativity, but not true creation. Creativity is the ability to take the elements that are already existing and play around with them, do different things, make different things from them. There's many, many energy elements to work with, and it's just rearranging them in different fashions. But really, for the most part, there's really nothing truly new. It's just a rearrangement of existing elements. It may appear new because you've never put it together or experienced it, but it's with existing elements. When we get into the deeper levels of true creation, it is new, absolutely new. So new that it's not just something that's in your field of potentials, but it could go beyond that. So last month we talked about allothone. I create. And I watched with Chambra all month long, see how they did with this concept. And for the most part, they didn't do very good. No, not real high grades, but I knew that going into it. It was almost a setup, an intentional setup, that we'd talk about allothone and there's an excitement. Oh, I'm going to create, and I'm going to create all these grand things in my life. And then when you actually got to doing it after watching the Shoud or sometime during the month, allothone, I create. I give you credit. Say that this time there wasn't the forcing that you normally have with creations, like when you're doing mind thought creations, trying to imagine a big new house or the right partner or a lot of money or health or anything like that. Those are always forced, and that's not creation. That's really actually not even creative, but it's certainly not pure, true creation. So there wasn't that element for the most part. Some did a little bit of forcing, but there was still the definition, whether it was very conscious or whether it was very subtle. There was still a desired outcome. There was a lot of, I create abundance. A lot of that. I create a new partner in my life. Quite a bit of that also. I create a healthy body. A lot of that, because I know you're going through a lot of biological issues right now. Your nervous system is basically breaking down and you're feeling a lot of aches and pains. So I create a healthy body. But that's where it kind of went wrong. Because in true creation, it's not about saying, I want a certain desired outcome. And the human may truly want that and desire it and tries to move towards that with wanting a healthy, vibrant, pain-free body. You are doing things now to go along with that, whether it's taking a supplement, which you tend to over-supplement yourselves, whether it's just taking greater care of your body, nurturing and honoring your body. There was a lot more desire to do that, but in true creation, there's none of that. There's no definition. It's simply acknowledging I exist. Therefore, I create. That's it. No definition. Not saying we need to move in this way or we need to move in that way. Anything like that. True creation is simply I exist. I create. Because at your core, in your consciousness, with your energy, you are a creator. But it's not just there to create and to build and to perfect an identity. Not at all. Not at all. True creation is saying, I create, and then as the creator, diving into the creation and seeing what you created, seeing the beauty, the grandeur, or the disharmony even at times. Because ultimately through that dissidence that you come to better understand how actually energy really flows and it is harmonious. So true creation is without defining it up front, saying what it has to be. So yes, I intentionally threw that at you last month so you could experience it. For the most part, again, you didn't push it. You allowed it. You allowed the things start come to you. But again, where we went a little bit off was saying it needs to be defined. And even if you didn't do it in words in your mind, there was that underlying desire. Even if you just said, I create, but inside you're saying, I create a healthier body, I create more abundance, or whatever it happens to be. And I'm not trying to fault anybody, but I'm saying I wanted you to experience that, because when you did that, then when it's just the true I create, you're open to anything. When you're trying to define it, suddenly, again, it changes it from true creativity to maybe, from true creation to maybe creativity. But what happened is, most of you noticed, it went flat. It went flat. It was, I create, with kind of the underlying thought, I create abundance. And then nothing happened. And didn't necessarily feel good. There wasn't that feeling of expansion and openness. And then you began to wonder about it, you began to doubt it, and you began to think it's all a bunch of grand theory, but it doesn't really work on a practical level. But again, let's go back and revisit. A simple I exist, I create. Let's do that together right now with a little bit of music in the background. Let's do that. Let's take a moment to just acknowledge yourself as a creator without the need to define, to shape, to push. Because you see, true creation is such a natural, intimate, and essential part of yourself, natural, that you don't need to. The human still thinks it needs to control, needs to say, well, the energy needs to do this or that. Not at all, because the true master realizes that it already knows. It already knows on a scale much bigger than the human will ever be able to know right now. So let's take a deep breath. I exist. Alloktone. I create. Whatever. I exist. I create. You're not calling in angels to help make you do it better. You're not looking for validation from me, or probably more likely Cthulhu. Oh, you did that really well. None of that. You're not looking for results to manifest like that. Oh, the human would like that, but no, it's simply, I exist. I create. It's returning to a natural state within you. You don't have to force. It's returning to your natural beingness as a creator. It's not I create along with many others. No, it's very sovereign. I create. It's probably one of the biggest shifts that you can possibly make. And it sends out a huge message to, well, yourself, your soul, past lives, your current identity. It sends out a huge signal. I am a creator. Not a wannabe creator, not a creator in apprenticeship, but a true creator. And that does something very dynamic with consciousness and energy, flows and patterns with fields. But we don't even need to get into all that, because that's kind of noise. No, it's simply, I exist. I create. As simple as it is, it's also very difficult, because, again, you want to define it, or your identity wants to define it. It says, well, here's what it needs to do. I'm kind of a little soft in this area. I'm depleted in that area. I need help in this area. None of that. Stop that. I exist. I create. So, yes, last month, the homework wasn't so good. Wasn't so good. But again, that was intentional on my part. I wanted you to feel what it's like to start with the truly the alloktone, and feel what it was like when it just kind of went flat, nothing happened. Some of you, some things did, yes, I acknowledge that. But for the most, it just went flat, and you're like, well, I'll try again, or maybe Adamus will come along and do some more work with us. That's why we're here right now. Alloktone, I create. Then you take a deep breath and go about your everyday life. You know, focus on it and dwell on it. Wonder if you did it right or wrong. You cannot do it right or wrong, but you can basically turn your back on it and not understand or not experience what's really going on. So let's take another good deep breath with that allophone. I create. And go about your everyday life. So we're going to talk about identity today, and we'll kind of get into it. I think the contemporary term is we're going to unpack it, or we're going to really dissect it. But before we start on that, let's take a look at the word itself, identity. Identity. Its origins are Latin. In Latin it basically means same, S-A-M-E, same, the same, the same. And that's what happens with identities as a human. It tends to be the same. You start working on creating, crafting an identity. And it's kind of the same as an identity that you had in a past life, a different era, maybe a different biological body, but it's pretty much the same. The aspirations for identity shift a little bit, but it's pretty much the same. It all goes back to the huge, big question that Tobias talked about in the Journey of the Angels. For those of you who are new to the Crimson Circle, Journey of the Angels is truly one of the most undervalued, unknown of the many gifts that Tobias offered. It talks about, in a way of metaphorically speaking, how you left the kingdom. You left the wholeness of your consciousness. You ventured outside of your own consciousness. And when he uses the example, it's called the wall of fire. When you left consciousness and went through the wall of fire, suddenly you found yourself in a great void. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, not just black, but nothing. And it was petrifying because you're like, I exist in nothing, so therefore I don't exist. That crossed your senses, your feelings, your thoughts. But as Tobias points out in this brilliant sessions, that suddenly you are aware. Even though you were in a void, you are aware of self. I exist. You could feel yourself, not physically, of course, because you weren't a physical being, but you could hear yourself. I exist. And then the very first thing that came to mind, you didn't have a brain, but that came to your senses was, who am I? Now that I'm beyond the wall of fire, now that I'm away from the kingdom of consciousness of myself, who am I? And that's been the biggest question any soul being has ever asked themselves. That's the beginning, that's the alpha of the journey. The beginning of a journey that took you through ages and ages as an angelic being in other realms without a physical body, playing with different identities, playing with other identities, other people, or not people, but other angelic beings. So it took you through many, many experiences. Who am I? And eventually brought you to this planet Earth. Eventually brought you here into physical form, all in pursuit of that question. That single question, best not to ask that anymore, but who am I? And here you stand, eons and eons of time later, here you stand in a physical body with an identity, and now about to discover that answer to this age-old question, who am I? Let's feel into that for a moment. Who am I? Put on a little bit of music, and who am I? It's such a beautiful question in a way, but look where it's gotten you. I mean, through a lot of experiences, through a lot of difficulties and hardships, but trying to decide, who am I? Who am I? There's such beauty in that, actually. And that's like a beginning point of creation. Who am I? Because from nothing, being in a nothingness, in a great void outside of the wall of fire, the kingdom of consciousness, suddenly you began to create. Not intentionally, not defining it, not saying, okay, I'm going to create realities to go play in, and one of them is going to be this planet Earth. No, there was none of that. It was simply, who am I? And that sent out the call to your own creation ability. And from there, it expanded. It created reality upon reality upon reality, and then invited you. These realities that your creation created invited you to come in. Don't just stand on the outside looking in, it said, all these different realities. Dive in and find out what you've created. That's the beauty and the joy. Not predefined, not manufactured or engineered by somebody else, not by God, not by angelic councils, none of that. It was all yours. Indeed, along the way, you merged with others, co-creation in a way, co-identities and co-experiencers, but the very core of it was, who am I? And then, your right, your ability as a true creator came to be. And then said, come in, join in, let's see exactly what you created. It's been a beautiful journey. Challenging at times, but a beautiful journey into the discovery of the I am. It's continued into this lifetime on this planet, continued into a succession of identities you've created for yourself, into this lifetime, into this creation. Your identity, who you are now. Let's feel into that for a moment. Who am I? And suddenly, creation comes. And then you go in for the experience. And the experience has never been so focused and so poignant as it's been here in this human lifetime. You experienced in other realms, but not nearly as truly beautiful and intimate as what you are having here on this planet Earth. I've talked about the fact that the role of the human is to experience. It's to experience what has been created by you, by the soul. The human is the experiencer, more so than any other of your non-human, non-physical experiences in the other realms. There's such a focus on it, experiencing. And coming out of it, coming through it with more understanding than ever before about who am I. Let's take a good deep breath with that. Who am I? Age-old question. Philosophers, metaphysicians, and clergy continue to ask that to this day. Who am I? Who are we? What are we doing here? What's the setup? Who set it up? And what's the ultimate design? So life has been all about who am I? Ultimately bringing in other people, other soul beings to experience with them, through them, having them as mirrors to yourself to help answer that, who am I? Who am I? Such a beautiful question. In a way, such a tragic question as well. Perhaps it lends itself to a new type of Shakespearean play. Who am I? Let's take a good deep breath with that. Good deep breath. Now, I'd like to backtrack a little bit as we get into this. We're going to be talking about identity, but first I want to talk about your role as a human on this planet. You came here, you took on the physical body, which is quite foreign, quite unusual. You took on mass and matter. You took on a limitation of senses, and basically have your 5 human senses plus your mind. So you took all these on, and you came here as the human to experience, to go deep into this creation of yours, and it is yours. And you have the feeling that sometimes, well, it's not really mine, it's shared experience. But no, ultimately, it's really your experience. There's the illusion of sharing it with others. We're all on this journey together. We're all here on the planet. We're all human. But ultimately, no. It's a very personal and intimate experience on the planet. You infused your angelic energies into the physical body. And when you did, when you first came here to this planet, there was also a kind of a knowingness on the order of the part of the order of the ark, the angelic beings that put together this whole concept of Earth, that you could get so immersed into it, into the density. You'd be so condensed and compressed and really forced into this very, very dense reality that you might forget. That you might forget who you were and where you came from, and maybe not ever find your way back. So it was that this whole concept of death came about. Yeah, let's introduce death into this. So you go down there, you live as a human, eventually you embody into biology, but you're going to die. You're going to come back to the other side, and there'll be the reunion, the remembering, everything else. So death was kind of put into the death trigger was put into the human experience. The idea was great. It's like, get you the hell out of there, because otherwise you might get so lost. But this reality and its gravity are so heavy that death alone didn't release you. There were times when, between lifetimes, you would die, and early on you go back to the other realms. It's like, whoa, that was great, but it was intense, and you kind of learned what it was like to infuse into biology, all as a part of helping to understand who am I. But then just when you were sitting around at the big party with the other angels celebrating your return, suddenly you disappeared. You're back on Earth. You're back into another incarnation, because the gravity is so heavy and so seductive that it pulled you right back. Your angelic beings are all sitting around with you, having a drink and celebrating. Suddenly, where the hell is she? You're gone. Back on Earth, back into another incarnation. So even the death trigger didn't really hold up. It wasn't really effective. So you began incarnating, lifetime after lifetime, time and time again, all in pursuit of finding out who am I. It wasn't a punishment or a judgment to come here. It took a lot of courage, took a lot of lot of courage. But suddenly you're now into incarnations, and along the way forgetting totally why you were here. Incarnations that took place 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 years ago, had no idea, no concept of why they were here, how they got here. There was some discussion about it, but truly philosophy, religion really didn't exist like it does now until about 5,000 years ago. It just wasn't there. There was awareness of your material environment, but not a lot of thinking of, where did I come from? Why am I here? What's the purpose? It was survival. You didn't have time to think about much else. So So you're living as a human, you're crafting identities lifetime after lifetime. But if you trace those back, you look at the lifetimes, even though you might have been in different genders or different parts of the world, different cultures, different kind of mindsets, different levels of intelligence or skills, you'll see something very, very common between all those lifetimes. They're essentially building on the same identity from one lifetime to the other. Yes, a different name, maybe a different gender, but still trying to answer that question, who am I? Still building identity and carrying that on from one lifetime to the other. And by the way, most humans really don't jump around a lot between lifetimes. They don't, from lifetime to lifetime, they don't try different families. They stay in the same one. They don't go to different parts of the world. They tend to stay in the same culture. As I've said before, the vast majority of humans living on the planet today are living within about 50 kilometers from where they were in the past lifetime, with the same family, with the same characters, with the same karma. Remember, in Latin, identity means the same, and that's exactly what you get. It's not a bad thing because, in a sense, it gives you the opportunity to really refine yourself, really help to understand yourself. Even if you don't remember from lifetime to lifetime, there is things literally in the DNA, in your akasha, that kind of help remind that, at a deeper level, the character that you've been, the identity that you've been building, what you're trying to fashion. So, again, you go through all these lifetimes, generally unconscious about it, just experiencing different identities, different lifetimes. But then something happens along the way. You get tired of the same. You want to break out. You know intuitively that there's more. You know that there's something else. And along the way, maybe 3 lifetimes ago, 5 lifetimes, whatever it happens to be, you finally say, I got to break out of this. And then, on that glorious and magnificent day of your breaking out, you accept a new role, a new identity. You become the seeker. The seeker. And it's now part of your identity, part of your discovering, who am I? But now you're seeking. There's got to be more. Maybe you put on a robe and sandals and start walking, similar to what Kathumi did, but you're now the seeker. And you spent many lifetimes in that role. It becomes so ingrained in you that now the seeker is your identity. The seeker is spiritual or religious or metaphysical. The seeker is always looking for the answers to questions many people never ask. Always seeking and always searching. And to the point that if it was right under your own feet, the answer was right there, you'd say, oh, no, I have to look out there. I got to keep searching and seeking. It's not bad. We've all done it. I did it in my lifetimes. Because it kind of keeps you going and it keeps you opening up to new possibilities. And it's not just the same old identity. You're looking for something new. But what happens is you get into that identity trap now as a seeker. And you deny it as a seeker because, no, I'm looking for something. I'm looking for the meaning of life. I'm looking for the answers. I'm looking for, who am I? So, no, I'm not in an identity trap, but you are. You really are. It's a nice identity trap because there's a certain amount of righteousness in it. Well, I'm a seeker. I'm looking for bigger answers. There's a certain kind of a comfort. The rest of the world is just unconscious or asleep. I'm a seeker. But it's still an identity. It's still a role. It's one many of you have almost perfected with all the different groups, all the different philosophies and religions you've been part of and everything. You've really gotten good at the seeking part. But underneath there's something that's kind of knocking, saying, all right, that gig is over now. It became just an act of consciousness, but it became an act. It became yet another identity. It's a very comforting identity in a way. And it gives you cause to get up in the morning. It gives you a feeling of, it's not superiority, but you feel different than others because I'm a seeker and they're not. I have more consciousness than they do. But again, let's be honest about it. It's simply an identity. So right now, I ask you to feel into that seeker role that you've been playing without judgment. Not a bad thing. It's really kind of an amazing thing. And you give yourself credit for having that role. But it's still an identity. It's still the same. Let's feel into that. With some music. Ah, that seeker. It loves the chase. And the funny thing is about the seeker is that, in a way, it doesn't want the answer. It wants the question. It wants the pursuit, but doesn't really want the answer, because if that seeker did, you would have found it by now. But you get caught up in that identity. And it's kind of comfortable. It's good justification for things that happen. As a seeker, it got to be that it would also be about not allowing yourself to be abundant. That kind of became one of the trademarks of seekers. I'm not abundant. And I don't mix well with others. I'm not a crowd kind of person. I'm a seeker. And it kind of created this character and this persona, identity of the seeker. I'm not saying it's bad. It was fun. Some of my seeker identities, lifetimes, were the most fun. It gave me kind of a license, that other humans really didn't have, to ask the questions, to be different, to do a lot of contemplating, a lot of heavy ceremonies, meditations, because you see, I'm a seeker. Kind of righteous, but I'm kind of a seeker. So yeah, they were fun, but ultimately, we'll feel into your seeker identity. Not a specific lifetime, but it's a kind of an identity that you've created. The seeker talks about all the books they've read, all the lifetimes that they've had in monasteries and temples. Talks about all the rituals they've done over the ages. Talked about all the techniques they've learned, Kwando Wan, whatever it happens to be, some new technique from the latest guru or master. The seeker's really good about letting other people know. You know how you can tell if somebody's a seeker? They'll tell you in the first 2 minutes of conversation with them. They'll let you know. And I'm not trying to be negative about it. I'm trying to be somewhat humorous, because we've all been there. We've all been there. The seeker will tell you how many spirit guides they had or used to have. Tell you about their out-of-body experiences and ET experiences and everything else. It's kind of a funny thing. And again, we've all done it, but now it's time to move beyond that. Unless you want to keep seeking, it's up to you. If you're ready to realize, great, that's what we're here for. If you're ready to keep seeking, you got plenty of places to go that'll encourage the seeking and not the answer. So feel into this seeker identity. It's not unique just to this lifetime. It's been around for a while. Oh, that one has a lot of stories. Yeah, many stories it can tell. Probably more interesting than typical human everyday life stories. The seeker story, going out on a limb, a lot of loneliness in the seeker stories, a lot of times alone, self-inflicted. Sometimes, other times, nobody wanted to talk to you because you got to be a little didactic. But I love the seeker identity after it's released. Other than that, it's kind of, in a way, like a prison sentence. Never finding the answer, never finding what's at the end of the rainbow. The seeking becomes the thing, not the answer. I bring this all up because I know right now a lot of you are tired of that. You're almost upset and pissed off with your seeker identity. Where's it gotten you? I mean, a lot of experiences, but I mean, really, where's it gotten you? Are you any further ahead in terms of real answers? Or is it just more questions? You see, that's what the seeker is really good at, asking more questions. Why? What keeps the journey going? What keeps the seeking going? Keeps the identity in place. But we come to this point now, in what you're doing, what we're doing together. Comes to this point to say now, it's time to release all the identities. This isn't ego bashing. This isn't saying, we need to destroy the ego, the human persona. It's quite the opposite. It's an honoring of all those identities. You know, it's interesting right now because while we're sitting here talking, your past lives are actually rewriting the stories, their stories of what happened. Their perspective is changing. It's different. Literally, it's changing the time and space relationship that they have with their reality. It's changing their fields. They're going through a tremendous rewriting of the storylines, of the script. It defies science, it defies even quantum physics, but it's happening right now. They're going through identity shifts and changes and releases right now. Not that they've chosen it. They don't really understand what's happening. It's because of what you've chosen. It's because of the soul desires to let go of all the identities. You'll always have the memory somewhere in the Akasha, and sometimes even in the human mind. It's not that the memories are destroyed. No, not at all. But the story is rewritten. The story changes. The story now is about, answers rather than questions. The story is about realization rather than searching. It's kind of funny because they're doing it, it's happening because of where you're at, of what you've allowed, but yet you're kind of the last one doing it. So I got to hang on to this identity right now, because this identity is the thing that's keeping it all going. It's the one that's enabling my past lives to rewrite their stories. This identity is the big spiritual cheese, so to speak. It's managing this whole big spiritual, metaphysical searching, and it's if it wasn't for this identity that you have now, the seeker, also the spiritual being. If it wasn't for that, all this would collapse, you think to yourself. All this would collapse. I have to maintain even my spiritual identity. That's the most important thing. That's the very thing that is what's going to make the changes happen. It's going to make a personal kind of a eucatastrophe happen, and eventually perhaps for the planet. So there's this spiritual identity. It doesn't matter what the dogma is. It doesn't matter if it's a religion or kind of a cult or something like Crimson Circle. But it's an identity that you have, spiritual being. And again, this isn't to be negative, it's to be observant, to be aware, very aware of what you're doing. It's not bad, but it's the same. It's the same. And maybe time to move on. So we come to this precious, precious, fragile, sensitive time right now of identity release. Not destruction whatsoever. Identity release, the freeing of the identities. And it brings panic and anxiety because, you see, you think if you don't have an identity, something you can relate to, you don't exist. It all falls apart. Everything you've worked so hard for over the lifetimes, with your seeker identity then turned into a highly spiritual, metaphysical identity, it all collapses. And that's the eucatastrophe. It doesn't collapse. There's a sudden joyful turn of events. Releasing identity, the grasp on them, was not denial. It's the other way around. It's actually acceptance. I created these identities. I used them to experience. But now, do I really need that definition to help me understand who am I? Do I need those tight definitions, the definitions of the identity I've been trying to perfect and grow and make as perfect as possible and fix when needed, and attend all sorts of classes and read all sorts of books about basically how to put makeup on your identity, how to bandage up the broken parts, how to fix it, how to keep that identity going, how to infuse the identity with more energy, how to aggrandize the identity, how to worship the identity. But then you realize it's all the same. The same. It's an identity. That's all it was. So we come to this very fragile, sensitive point of saying, can I release that identity and not just create a new identity, the releasing identity, because that's the human tendency, but to truly let it go, let it be free. And you see, it's not that difficult. It's just a matter of, well, letting go, and if at all possible, if we can give an example here in real time of dear Belle. Belle is releasing right now. She's letting go. You see what that's like? You just roll over on your back, you make yourself vulnerable, you put up your leg in the air, and you release. And while you release, you're also receiving. You're letting go of old identities, but receiving your true self, what has no identity and no need for identity. Let's take a deep breath with that. This is the time now to honor your identity, who you are right now. To be real, to be honest and candid, not to be negative or judgmental, but simply to say, well, what identity did I build? How did seeker and spiritual identity kind of meld together, and how did I use that to create the identity for who I am now? And how have I been trying to fix that identity, almost make that identity permanent? What have I been doing lately to try to do that? Such as I'll atone, trying to create for that identity. And it's a matter of taking a look right now and laughing at the identity. I mean, in a good way, not laughing at it, but laughing with it. The humor in it, and saying, wow, this is pretty crazy. I created an identity. I'm at a certain age. I live in a certain culture. I have a certain education, certain talents. I'm a spiritual seeker. I have a certain amount of abundance and health. That's all factors that go into the identity. but being able to say, this is what I experienced through this identity. And a lot of it was identity building, but I experienced. And now, am I ready? Am I so bold and ready to let that identity go? All of the identities, of all the lifetimes, of all the experience. Am I really ready to let them go? Do I still need to hold on to parts and pieces of it? Do I still need to understand that I exist by doing it through an identity? Or am I ready to go to the next level? Well, you already know the answer. And that's why we're here. But it's a scary one because part of you is thinking, again, I have to have some sort of identity. I have to be able to say I am this or I am that to be able to function during the day. I have to have some semblance of identity, even if I just identify as being human. And the answer to that is not really. Not really, but it's okay to have identity that's flexible and malleable, that can change, that can adapt, that can move and swing, not to be the same all the time. You're ready now to let go of basically what was your crutch, identity. What was you were using for excuses, what you were using to put all of your time and effort and understanding into. You're ready to let that go. And yes, it's for the human to think about it. Well, I have to be something. I have to associate. I have to have that qualia with something, because otherwise I'm nothing. That's what you're about to discover. It's not true at all. You're about to discover how identities, particularly human identities, as interesting and as creative and as scary as they are, actually we're very limited. You don't need identity to understand I am that I am. As a matter of fact, identities sometimes cloud it and block the true realization. And again, I want to make sure you understand we're not identity bashing, ego bashing. There are some spiritual disciplines that are all about tearing apart the ego. Humans are terrible. No, humans are wonderful. It's an experience, but ultimately, it's just an identity. I think, I know, and I feel that you're ready to move beyond that. So let's take a good deep breath now, and let's do a marab. Put in some music, and you see, this isn't anything you work at. Again, it would be the identity trying to get rid of the identity. This is natural. You come to the point of consciousness and awareness. Suddenly that as a creator, I have the ability to create identities. I have the ability to have that identity in a physical body, that identity to walk and talk, and to have a certain kind of a knowingness of itself as a human, as a woman middle-aged, as a woman who's an accountant. I have that ability. It's inherent in my creator rights, but I don't have to get locked in it ever again. That was the issue. Getting locked into it and defined by it, and then trying to work at it and trying to push energy into it and trying to make it different and getting frustrated along the way. That was the real issue. No, identities are great. And yes, you can have multiple identities at the same time. You really can, without the crazy confusion in what they call multiple personality disorder or whatever. You have the ability to create identities that come and go, that serve at that moment, in the middle of that experience. You have the ability to create yourself, the identity to be, well, it's kind of like aspects in a way, but they're more facets, they're integrated, the ability to have an identity that understands computers, that understands music, any of that. This is your right as a creator. But right now, let's take a deep breath and let's take this precious moment to honor this identity in this lifetime. Whatever that happens to be. Mother, worker, volunteer, helping others. Whatever that identity is, a daughter of your parents, the one who studied hard in school, the identity that thinks it made a lot of mistakes along the way, the identity that's very frustrated with its identity, identity that just, in a way, wants a clean start, a do-over. Let's take a deep breath and honor that identity, the identity of you in this lifetime. So precious. We're not trying to disavow it, or we're not even trying to change it. We're just saying it can be released. It can be free. It doesn't have to be the same. It doesn't have to be structured. It doesn't have to be something that you try to improve every day. No, let that identity of yourself be free now. Take a good deep breath. All this, it's just an identity. That's fine until you get into that identity trap. It doesn't move anymore. It doesn't see that there's so much more. So much more. A part of you is yearning for that, wanting to experience it, but you're trying to do it through this identity. And it's possible the identity will feel it and experience it, but it's not where it really comes from. It's not this identity making it happen. Let's take a deep breath in this very sacred and precious moment. Giving freedom now to this identity. And you see, a creator creates without definition and then dives into experience. And then the creator frees all of its creations. It gives freedom to every creation, every lifetime. Even if the creator is just using its identity for creation. In other words, you create something, pottery, or jewelry, or a painting, or just even AI. And you go, look what I created, that's mine. I did that with not just my hands and my eyes, but I did that with my consciousness. And such beauty in that. There's such a feeling of even affection and love for what you've created. Some of you have created amazing songs now using AI. And a lot of you think, well, it was just AI. No. You were the creator. You had tools such as AI that made it easier, but you were the creator, and then you love that song. You play it over and over to yourself, and you just love it because it's basically a mirror of your own beauty, of your own song within. But then, instead of hoarding it and protecting it and defending it, the true creator gives it freedom, lets it go. Says, I'll atone, I create. I created, and now I release my own creations. Why would a creator do that? Why would a creator take what it's created and just let it go? For one thing, then it's allowed to go out into your entire field, into your entire soul. It's no longer being watched over and controlled by the human. Now it goes out in your entire beingness. And also, then, it doesn't get stuck. It's still yours, yes, but it's not the human controlling it anymore. It doesn't get stuck. It's not like you're giving it to everybody else. You're giving it freedom within your total being. That's why you give all of your creations their freedom. It's very easy to get stuck in your identities, but now it's a time to give them freedom, to evolve, to resonate within the rest of your soul. Very easy to get stuck in them. Oh, there's actors, movie actors, who get stuck. Heath Ledger played Joker in Batman, was so immersed in role that it took a long time and a lot of counseling to help him release that role. You do the same with your identities. You get so ingrained with it that you forget. Jim Carrey playing the role of Andy Kaufman in Over the Moon, so immersed in it, he almost forgot who Jim Carrey was. You, a creator, a soul being, getting so deeply immersed into the identity, you can easily get lost. We're here now, at this moment. As we talk about concepts like allothone, when we talk about concepts of the reflection of AI, we talk about fields and all the rest of that. Now, it's time to honor your identity, the human in this lifetime, and let it go. Honor it. Oh, how it served you. How it's been such a part of you, but now, letting it go. And not trying to run out there and create a new identity, not at all. You don't need it. You see, when this question was asked, who am I? I led you on a journey. I spanned the cosmos, the eons of time, and eventually brought you here. And eventually you come to the point of, with that question, who am I? It's as simple as, I am. That's it. I am. You don't need an identity for that. I am that I am. I am all the identities, all the experiences, all the stories ever created. I am that I am. And yes, I have had many identities. I've worn many different costumes, clothings, as a metaphor. I've tried so many different things, but at the end, I am that I am. I'm all these things, these characters, these identities, but I don't need them to exist. I don't need them to define myself anymore. They did at one point, but I don't need them. That is freedom. I am. Not I am a grandmaster, I am an amazing human, none of that, just I am. I am that I am. I am all of these identities, all of these experiences now have freedom. They have got stories. They've led me through so many things, but I'm no longer defined by any of them. I'm no longer managed or regulated or directed by any of them. I'm no longer involved in the karma that an identity will create. I am. This is a defining moment. Without identity, and then what is revealed in a very quiet, very subtle way is you never needed those identities. They were fun, but you never needed them. There is the built-in knowingness that doesn't require identity building. that doesn't require all the stories, that doesn't require the structure and limitations of an identity. Simply, I am. You could say it is every identity, but not bound by them. It is every potential, but not limited. So let's take a moment here. Let's take a deep breath. Who am I? I am. And give freedom now to that identity that you have believed that you are. It wasn't false, but it was very, very limited. And now it's time for Creator, for you, to bless it and give it freedom. Simply, I am. I exist. There's a tremendous shift that starts taking place. It's not dissolution of the identities, but you could say it's really a reorientation, a shifting, energy realignment in them, where they're no longer held in place. They're no longer defining you. There's that beautiful freedom in just I am. That, you could say, in a strange way, is the ultimate identity. But it's not an identity. It's not the same. I am. Tremendous freedom in that. Don't overthink it, please. Some of you can feel the cogs and gears in your head just buzzing away on it. Take a deep breath and let yourself feel it. You find that as we move into new sentience, we move into Love 2.0, that it's very difficult to do if you send your entity to do the work, your identity entity to do the work. If you send an identity in there, your current identity, say, okay, go discover new sentience, go discover Love 2.0. It's going to be very difficult. It basically won't be able to do it. It's too regulated, too fixed. But if simply the I am, that is allowing the experience through the human that doesn't have to be over-identified, then you begin to feel and experience new sentience and a whole new way to love. Let's take a good deep breath. Giving freedom now to that identity. Honoring it. Laughing a little bit with it. Saying kind of, it's the end of the road. It's time to give you your freedom. It's time for me now to be free of the shackles of old identities. Simply, I am. Who am I? I am. That's it. Boom. Let's take a good deep breath. Good deep breath. Good deep breath as we bring this beautiful Shoud to a close. I am. And with that, dear Shambhala, remember that all is well in all of creation. I am that I am. Thank you.
And with that, once again, take that good deep breath. Really let yourself be. Be free. Breathe into you, feeling that freedom of identity. Just Be in that space. Breathe. You can feel it. Open to it. Breathe your I am. Be that breath. Allow it. Allow that freedom of identity. Breathe in the I am. Flow with it. Allow it. So much here for each of us going forward from here. Truly allow yourself to be this. To be this I am. Breathe and flow as we close out this wonderful session with a tone.